everyone, Mrs. Martin here to talk to you about how I use Google Slides to create escape rooms for my students. Before I begin the tutorial, I'm just going to go over a few quick details and some specifics about my escape rooms. For my classes, escape rooms are a carefully organized sequence of activities that lead students through a story. They complete tasks to solve mysteries and fill in plots. I've begun using escape rooms mostly for the novelty. It gives us something different to do in the classroom. I generally use them as a review activity, and I send students to breakout rooms to complete the escape room as a team. Now, before we get started, I will say that oftentimes these escape rooms are incredibly time-consuming, but they usually end up being very fun for both me and my students. So when you're ready to invest some time into making these, rest assured that your students are really going to appreciate it. In addition, the more rooms you make, the better and more elaborate they become. So let's jump right in. My goal in making an escape room is that it's very engaging. I want to hook my students into some sort of activity that's going to get them invested. To do that, I really dig into my creative juices and try to come up with a storyline or plot or some overarching theme. I like to include backgrounds and images and music. So aside from the content, which would include our curriculum objective, maybe a tech objective, and a collection of activities, we really want to make sure that our theme, our images, and our music match up to get our students involved in this activity. With that being said, let's start our tutorial off with an undersea adventure. For the subtitle, you can include all sorts of things. You can include the topic of review, for example. Perhaps we are reviewing Unit 2. Maybe it's something more specific. I teach a math classroom, so perhaps we want our students to explore slope. Another thing I like to do with my escape rooms is remind students in this notes section here, and I usually make it quite large. And I tell them to click present in the upper right corner to begin. That way our things in our Google Slides that are attached to the various activities are easily clickable. Now that we've got a title and a subtitle, I'm going to go ahead and give this a little pizzazz because this is where we want to hook our students in. Something like this perhaps will catch their eye because they like the ocean maybe, but giving it a background is really going to make things pop. So I'm going to click out of the notes section by clicking up here somewhere, and I notice that my background option comes up. I can click there and choose an image. Now, the nice thing about getting images directly from our Google image search is that Google will provide images that are free for us to use. And so I'm going to go ahead and write under the sea and see what comes up. I can even include background if I'd like. Those are some nice ones. Maybe we want to focus on the reef because we've got a little more wildlife associated there. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this shrimp and add that to our background. And of course now with the colored background, we might have to change up some of our fonts here so that they're visible. One thing I might do is change the font, make it a little larger, give it a different color, maybe a really light blue. And we kind of lose it with the shrimp back there. So I'm going to give my undersea adventure some fill color so I can really see. Now what's nice about the colors is there is a transparency option. So what I can do is add a custom color. We'll pick something also blue, but really light. And then I'm going to make it very transparent so we still get our background. And well, sorry, now I got to change this back to something dark. And now we have our undersea adventure. We can do the same thing with this one. Now that I've got our undersea adventure a little easier to see and we're ready to start, I'm going to go ahead and add a new slide. And in this slide, I like to make the habit of including my objectives. I try to keep my fonts consistent. I don't want to pick too many different fonts throughout the escape room because I feel like it starts to get a little bit busy. So I try to keep that the same throughout the presentation. And for me, it's customary to include a curriculum objective and a technology objective. I've noticed that despite living in a generation that is very tech savvy, my ninth graders often don't know some of the basic things that they should know when they're working with computers. So I've increasingly been including technology objectives so that they know what it is they're aiming to complete and achieve throughout the activity. So again, you can pick whatever curriculum objective you might have, but for me, since we made our subtitle an exploration of slope, then for my curriculum objective, I want students to be able to identify a value for slope and be able to compare positive and negative slopes. For my technology objective, I might look for something as straightforward and simple as students being able to copy and paste. Images to be specific. And so you can kind of mess around with the formatting of this if you like. Perhaps this can be a little larger, as well as these. And then again, I'm going to continue to keep up this hook, keep up this theme that we've got going with our undersea adventure, and add a background. And now would even be a good time to bring in an image of the subject of our activity. To do this, I'm going to go up to my Insert tab, hover my mouse over image, and again, I'm going to search the web. If you've got an image specifically that you would like to use, feel free to use these other options, but I'm just going to search the web again to use some images that are free and safe for me to use. And this time I'm going to go with an octopus. But if I just type octopus, I'm going to get all sorts of really cool images of an octopus, but with some background to them. And so to avoid that, I can either type in PNG or transparent. And I'm going to go ahead and add this pink octopus here. Resize them a little bit and move them off to an appropriate place. Next is our chance to really get creative. So I'm going to come back up here, add a new slide. This time I like to use the one column text. So I can add a title to my story, I can add the story itself, and I can add some sort of image of what's going on. Or again, I could include my octopus as the subject of the story. I like to start off with once upon a time. I always think that's a fun way to start things for the students. Again, staying consistent with my fonts, increasing the size a bit. And let's add our story. Since our subject is an octopus, I'm going to name the octopus Ozzy. All right, so we've got a little story here about Ozzy the octopus who was going about the reef, has some friends, plans to deliver gifts, but forgets which gift belongs to which friend. So with some puzzles in hand and some notes that Ozzy created for himself, knowing that he had such a terrible memory, Our student's job is to help Ozzy solve the puzzles in order to determine which gift belongs to which friend. And I just came up with that right now on the spot, which means you can too when it's time for you to make fresh, new escape rooms. If you're here with me though, feel free to use this scenario and just input your own activities for your own curriculum objective and your own classes. Now, before going to the next slide, is go ahead and continue my theme and add some creativity to this slide. When I have this slide set up, I might just go to the previous slide and copy and paste our little Ozzy here. Ready to commence the sequence of activities. Before we move on, I want to keep that tech objective in mind, which was to copy and paste images. So in this one, I'm going to go ahead and collect some more images of some gifts that Ozzy plans to give to our friends. The reason I'm putting it here is I want my students to come back to this slide to copy and paste the gifts into the friend's hands or tentacles or fins, whatever friend is going to be in the next slide. So let's do that now. I'm going to go to Insert, hover over Image, and search the web for some gifts with transparent backgrounds. Okay, so after some thinking and some searching for images with transparent backgrounds, I've got 8 items here that are being held by Ozzy: a seashell, a soccer ball, a blanket, a hat, a pearl necklace, a model ship, and a vase of flowers under the sea. So now that we have these 8 objects here, I'm going to go ahead and start the page where my students are going to put their answers. If you have an LMS, sometimes it's a nice option to upload the escape room slides as an activity or an assignment. That way they each get their own copy and they can complete the assignment within the LMS. For example, Schoology I know does this, and then you'll have all their answers and all their work there. Another option is for you to, when you share your escape room slides, you share it so that when they click on the link, it generates a copy, which is a pretty easy thing to do. And they can show their work on this final slide. And so what I'm going to tell them here is to click on Ozzy's or each of Ozzy's friends to complete their puzzle and find out which gift belongs to them. When you determine the gift, here comes the objective. We're going to copy the gift from the last slide and paste. Notice I put these in italics so they really pay attention to them. Gift onto the friend. And I'm going to put in parentheses here because some students might not know. You might have to stop presenting to copy and paste the gift. Okay. Now, obviously, those instructions are taking up most of the screen. I don't really want that, so I'm going to make it smaller here. They don't need it to be that large. And then I'm going to go ahead and give it my background as usual so it really pops and they can see it. And the background, I'm going to go ahead and add the reef again and then add some images for friends. So let's do that now. All right, so we've got our 8 friends here. They're all kind of facing the same direction. So one thing I am going to do is flip a few of these around. To do that, I'm going to click on Format Options as I'm highlighting one of my images. And I'm going to go to Size and Rotation. And I'm just going to flip some of these guys. So I'll do that for this one. And I don't know. Maybe I'll actually turn the slug, or the sea snail, sorry, onto its side and have him crawling up the wall. That would be cool. And then I'll turn the crab. There we go. So now we've got all these friends here, and we're going to copy and paste their gifts onto them. So we need to make sure they've got room to accept the gifts, and the students will make it work. Okay, so there are 8 friends. And so the next part is going to kind of be up to you. And that is linking all of the friends to your activities. The nice thing about this is that it can be activities that you already own, perhaps PDFs or things like that, or they can be activities that you're going to make fresh. Here are some examples of some of the activities that I like to use to create clues and other content throughout the assignment. Okay, so here are some of the websites that I like to integrate into the escape rooms and give my students some variation when it comes to mastering their content. This first one is Jigsaw Planet. You can sign up for a free account. Here I am. And you can add in all sorts of images and it'll create the jigsaw puzzles for you. Some things that I like to include in here are diagrams that I like the students to see often. Since I'm doing slope, I might want to include a line that has positive slope. And when they put the puzzle pieces together, they can see that positive slope in action. So puzzles are always kind of a fun, relaxing thing for the students to do. It isn't always just a skill building worksheet. These puzzles generate a URL, which you would link to one of the friends in the escape room, and students can click on the link to do the live puzzle. One thing you have to include with the image that's in the puzzle, one thing you have to include on the image is the clue for the next part. Let me show you what I mean. In this Pi Day puzzle, which I made about 20 pieces, so it wasn't too overwhelming for my 9th graders, I've got the clue down here at the bottom that tells them where to go next. In our undersea escape room, I might put a clue like, the seahorse gets the hat. You can be really straightforward or you can be kind of riddly with it. It's up to you. So that's how I use jigsaw puzzles, to give them one type of activity to complete. Another activity I like to complete is a word search, and I use the teacher's corner to do so. You can create a title, instructions, and words to hide, but to get the next clue, what I like to do is use what they call a hidden message word search. Notice that the creator of this site has given a YouTube video on how to create those. And so once the students locate all of the words in the word search, the leftover letters create a hidden message, which in our case would be the clue for which friend gets the next gift. This is a great option to get your students more familiar with the collection of vocabulary for the objective that you're focusing on. You always have a Google Form option. There's lots of ways to force a Google Form to validate students' responses, to make sure their responses are correct before they move on. And to give the clue, I always leave the clue in the settings down in presentation for my confirmation message. For example, the seahorse gets the blanket. And finally, another online option that I like for activities is Flippity. Flippity has all sorts of activities. Many of you may already know this site. One that I really like is the word scramble. Again, a great option for vocabulary. Or maybe single word answers for a quiz. Maybe if you're doing English and you've read a novel, you have character development that you want to focus on, you can do that for the word scramble. So all sorts of activities here, and a lot of them create a clue at the end as well, which helps the students complete the task in the escape room. So once you've made your activities and you have all sorts of URL links to add to this slide, you're going to click on the individual friend that belongs to that activity or that clue, and you are going to link that friend. To do that, you can either use the shortcut Control K, or you can use this little link icon here to insert a link, and you can paste the URL here. That way, when students are presenting the slide, they'll be able to just click on the friend, it'll take them to the assignment, they'll complete the assignment to get their clue, they'll be able to copy the GIF from Ozzy the Octopus and paste it over here with the various friends. Now, if you've been following along with the tutorial, you've been doing great so far. You had backgrounds with clever titles, objectives to make sure that we're staying education based, creative stories to go along with our various themes, and a whole host of activities for our students to complete. But one thing we didn't add was any music, and music can be a really, really fun component of this, and again, keep students engaged and focused on what they're working on. It's also kind of nice to have a little bit of background sound while they're working on these various components. To get music, I usually go to the following site to get it royalty-free and feel safe and guilt-free using the music in these escape rooms. To find music, I like to use Free Sound. It's a website where you can log in and download music for free, and it's all royalty-free. So here I've logged into my Free Sound account, and I'm going to go ahead and type in Ocean Music, and you can actually get music, sound effects, all sorts of things in here. I'm going to click Enter. And you can do a quick play on some of these things, kind of hear what they sound like. I'm going to go ahead and go with the Happy Day in the Beach. It's not too distracting, not too loud. And so to get that, I'm going to click on it, and then I have the option to download. Now that we've got our music, let's go back to the beginning of our slides and add it in. I'm going to go up to Insert, click on Audio, and under my Recent tab, if you know where it is in your drive, you can go that way, but I usually go the Recent route because I click on the most recent upload, and I'll bring in my music. And here it is in the upper left corner. Now, a couple of things when we look at formatting our audio playback, we don't want it to be on click because we don't want it to wait to play. We want it to play as soon as the students start presenting the slides. So I'm just going to change that to automatically. The other thing I want to do is bring the volume way down, not only because we don't want this to be a distracting component of our escape room, but also because oftentimes when we download music and then upload it into the slides, they too come up pretty loud. It's a little jarring sometimes, so we can adjust this accordingly once we check out our presentation. Notice how we have the checkbox Stop on Slide Change. We don't really want our music to stop unless you plan to have a different song for each slide. But for right now, I want this song to play throughout. It's only 38 seconds, so we might want it to loop. And we also don't want that little play button to show up during the presentation, so I'm going to hide the icon when presenting. And now I'm all set. So to recap, we've got our curriculum objective here in the second slide. And now we've completed our first escape room. We've got a clever title and a subtitle here at the beginning. We've got our curriculum objective and a technology objective to keep students focused on what our ultimate goal is with this escape room. We've come up with a creative plot to get students hooked in and engaged with the story. We've included loads of images for them to interact with, and we've included music, again, to help keep them engaged with this activity. And finally, we made a collection of activities, including old worksheets and new integrations with new software so that students can complete puzzles and master the content. And again, these things are time consuming, but they can really be a good time if you're willing to spend that time and effort and energy on them. You've done great with your first tutorial on escape rooms. In this next segment, I'm just going to cover a few of my examples to give you some more things to think about when you start trying to come up with your own. Now, before we check out those examples, let's make sure that our escape room sounds good and is ready to be put to use. Notice when I click through, the music didn't stop, which is important. We've got our octopus with all his fabulous gifts for all his friends. And then all the friends that would technically be clickable once we add in all their activities. And because this is very generic, besides changing out the curriculum, you could totally just use the same escape room for all your various courses and just change up the activities so that they apply specifically to the course you're teaching or sharing this with. And so now that we have our slides completed, let me share with you some of my slides, again, just to give you some ideas for your own in the future. So here are 3 different escape rooms that I put together. And this first one was actually the first one I made on my own. It was a holiday mystery. We had the whole story here. I actually included audio of me speaking out the story and the instructions. I thought at the time it would be important for the students to be able to read and hear the story. That's an option you might consider, especially to cater to some accommodations that our students might need. And for the rest of this, I actually had separate rooms and they had to go through the clues and follow a sequence of events rather than just a collection of friends in our undersea escape room. And so they had the living room and the master bedroom and the bathroom. And within the bathroom, I have various images that are all clickable. And notice that when they click on one that they're not supposed to click on, it would forward them to an error page. So just to look at that quickly. I made a few of these error pages so that they knew that they were in the wrong place to kind of avoid them just clicking around and trying to find the stuff very fast. So that's one option you might want to consider. And then the final slide requested answers from them, and they knew how to, their tech objective for this one was to add text to Google Slides. And so that was, they were showing their objective here in the answers. Another thing this escape room includes is movement. So one thing the students had to do was move the shovel around to try and find the final clue. And when they moved to a certain location, they would find the message hidden in the snow. To make that, I used an app that allows me to pull color from an image and match the color. And then I gave that color, the code that goes with that color, to the font color in this one to help really, really hide it. That's another option you might be interested in when it comes to making escape rooms. The next escape room I made was for Pi Day. It came out right around the time that Raya came out for Disney. My students were really excited about it. And so again, we've got some escape room instructions, a storyline that's also read out loud with some music involved. And this one, instead of having the separate rooms, it does have separate locations, but I had a main map for students to return to. And so when they clicked on the different places of the map, if I could just show you that for a moment, it would take them to those places and they could check things out. And if I wanted to go back to the main map, I could link that way. And this one was a good time as well. Again, all of these links to different slides came just from adding links here and linking it to the various slide titles rather than a URL. And finally, my Algebra 1 escape room, I made a Pokemon Northridge Academy High School version. Our mascot is the Pumas. And again, they had their learning target objective, some instructions. And for them, they had a map where they went to different locations on the Pokemon map to find the different badges, and they copied and pasted those badges into a badge album from this little Pikachu here. And then instructions on how to submit the assignment was on the final page, with plenty of Pokemon music throughout. So just some fodder for you to start thinking about your own escape rooms. And if there's anything I can hope for you as you make your escape rooms, it's that you have fun with this, like I've said before. Enjoy it, have a good time. Don't do it because you have to, do it because you want to. And if that means you take a little bit of time over this summer and have a little fun with this, I really think your students will enjoy this sort of activity. So thanks for being here and watching this tutorial with me. If you have questions, you can always leave comments below, and I can add more tutorials on how to do more specific things throughout the escape room. Until then, continue having fun with technology.